Welcome to the Gold Factor Summon Your Greatness podcast. In this final episode of season 1, my friend Megan is going to be joining us to ask questions about the Crooked Path to a Charmed Life book release that was done in the first 22 episodes of the podcast. So if you haven't listened to all the episodes yet, it's okay. It's full of useful information about spiritual growth and the experiences that were covered in the book. But before we dive in, just make sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with your circle of growth-minded, heart-centered friends that are committed to living at their highest level. All right, let's get into the episode. All right, Miss Megan, I'm going to let you ask questions. This is going to be fun.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited about this. I read this right after it first came out, and then I flipped through it again about a year ago, and I dove back into it again recently, and well, this is the result.
Oh my gosh.
I tabbed like every single chapter, and I have all these questions, and I'm excited. So, I'm just gonna kind of jump in. I know it's kind of funny, but right there in the preface, you talked about how these intuitive gifts are a blessing, but they don't come without difficulty. And you had a little bit of reticence or reluctance about writing the book. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's funny, a little bit of difficulty. No, I had a huge amount of resistance, right? I mean, because religious beliefs and the way that I was brought up and back, I mean, I was born in 66, so it's not like these things were accepted. It was seen as evil and satanic and demonic. And I was told by the church, like, you're talking to demons. So not only just from the aspect of stepping into my gifts and then sharing it with the entire world and all of my stories. I mean, I shouldn't say that, not all of them, but the ones that are important and pivotal that I think can help people are included in this book. And they aren't things that I'm proud of. There are stories I shared in the book that I'm not proud of it. With massive vulnerability with an audience of people I don't know who's listening or reading. You know, and for someone who lived in survival mode for the first half of her life, feeling like I need to be on guard all the time, it's and be in control to release these things. Of course, there's a long process. It took me 5 years to write the book and release it because of that. And I wanted to also get my daughter to the point where she was an adult and she had a voice in whether or not that story went out. I mean, Spirit bugged me to write the book, write the book, write the book. So I was writing the book. I wasn't in a hurry to publish the book.
Here, everybody, let's look under the rock and look at all the creepy crawlies and let's be vulnerable and show everything. Yeah.
It wasn't until Rob's death that I finally felt like, wow, now it's time to wrap up the book and publish it. It wasn't until that was the natural conclusion of sort of the circle of everything. So yeah, I was very hesitant, as I think anyone that shares their personal story. I mean, it's all the stuff. It's my spiritual gifts. It's my belief systems. It's my family. It's everything. You know, it's real, it's raw, and it's out there. And it's like, okay, well, and the overriding, I think, decision factor of releasing it, was the push from Spirit and just knowing if I had read a book like that when I was in it, how much faster I would have been able to get through it.
Absolutely. I mean, I know one of the first things I told you was, I wanted this book 10 years ago. Where has this book been? And even now, just reading it again, you peel back layers and you find new nuggets of information that just resonate so deeply and help you to feel not so alone, because you're right. These gifts touch every single facet of our lives. It's not just like, oh, here's me and my spirituality. It's hey, I'm basically walking through two worlds 24/7, and I want to be able to be a functional member of society, mother, friend, partner, employee. And how do I do that without losing my mind? You actually have a beautiful quote about that. Let me see if I can find it. It's in chapter 14. You say, as I engaged more and made time to commune with my spirit realm, my gifts began to grow. I began to question the validity less and accept the guidance more. Doing so allowed me to communicate with those who crossed over, guides, and angels daily. Life was changing again as I learned how to walk between worlds without losing my sanity. Oh, man.
Yeah, because I
Did
felt like I literally for so long felt like I was always on the edge of being institutionalized. And years
mhm.
ago, if you think about this, back in the 50s and sometimes even 60s, I would have been institutionalized
Oh, yeah.
had I
Oh,
shared
yeah.
what was going on. I would have been put in a loony. I mean, many women were. That if you think back in those days, the 30s, 40s, 50s, that's when that realm of witch burning happened. Let's call them
The
crazy and just hide
hysteria,
them.
quote
Yeah,
unquote.
yeah, yeah.
hmm Wow. Wow. Okay, so I have to say, why did you choose to start the book out with the crazy paranormal stuff going down in Eastern Washington? I mean, I just have to paint the scene. You're moving to this small, tiny town. Your husband at the time is working on a farm. You have this tiny little baby. You don't know anybody. You're trying to get plugged into the spiritual community there.
But
You're
we
going
went
to a
to
Christian
church.
church. Right, right. And at the same time, that is juxtaposed with this weird, heavy, icky darkness. Like, how did you reconcile those things? Did you even know what was going on at first?
I mean, at first, when you're in it, you just think all hell, like the gates of hell open. That's literally what I thought was happening. Is we just moved into this vortex where the gates of hell are open daily. Um, and I didn't know then what I know now, obviously. I was like
Mhm,
26 years old. Like I
mhm,
didn't know anything. Um, I know now that that was my initiation, right? That was my
mhm,
spiritual initiation. It was my spiritual initiation to spiritual warfare, to understanding how to operate with these gifts, and no longer have to hide them. I still hid them all the time. I mean, it's not like I openly and me and my ex, it's not like we talked about that stuff. He was super religious.
mhm,
So I think because I was so very focused on spirituality at the time, and mind you, it was coming from more of a religious place,
mhm,
but because we were there in the church and he was very much a part of the Church of God and Assembly of God and all of that stuff. And
mhm,
it's not stuff I'd been exposed to that extreme before, to the point where, women aren't supposed to cut their hair, wear makeup, shave their legs, blah, 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 like the
mhm,
craziness. Because it was so different from what I was used to, I questioned all of it. And I had the time
mhm,
because I was a stay-at-home mom. I had the time to actually take my questions and go find answers to them, whether it was through journaling, through meditation, through studying the Bible and other texts. And it allowed me to develop that relationship. I mean, develop the relationship with Jesus Christ, that was perfectly fine, right? That was
mhm.
expected. What they didn't expect was that I was going to take that into it away from the dogma. And that's where,
Right.
as far as the religion was concerned, I did the wrong thing. But in all reality, I did exactly the right thing. And it was the most
Mhm,
magical time, scary time too. But I chose to open the
mhm.
book with it because that was my initiation. That was the beginning point of opening this whole thing of, and hey, we have a job for you. And hey, here's the vision, right?
Mhm.
That's where it started. And so it's like, it has to start here because that's when it all started. Before then, I was living my life like everybody else.
Shut down intuitively.
Yeah. Yeah, just
Mhm.
trying to make a living, have a happy marriage, go dancing, do all the things, right? Because before we
Mhm.
moved to Washington, we were living in California and we were living like everybody else. I was showing horses, I was doing all the things, making money, partying, having fun. And for whatever reason, after we had my daughter, Brindy, like all of a sudden he wanted to clean up his act. And then I was supposed to follow. And then we moved to this town that just so happens to be
Mm.
wrapped in, conservative Christianity and whatnot. So, I mean, I don't know that it could have played out any differently. Such a strange and so out of my norm.
Right.
California girl,
So,
really? You're going to stick me in this crazy small town of witch hunters?
oh my gosh, but you got through it. Not only did you get through it, um, I mean, your life was literally saved on more than one occasion. I think about the card, just, oh, you have to read the book. I don't want to spoil it. But the way you were just so richly blessed, I mean, with food just miraculously appearing for your whole family in just the most
And
divinely
those were
orchestrated of ways.
like there were no
Incredible.
manifesting books back then, right? Like
Hmm.
there is no law of attraction stuff. I did study some stuff on quantum physics and whatnot, but back then it wasn't the focus. The focus was just develop that relationship, with spirit and walk with the Holy Spirit and walk with the angels. And it's okay now, but I had a battle going on internally because I
Hmm.
was hiding the fact that I'd seen all these things, heard all these things my entire life, and I can't
Right.
talk about it. Right now, I'm
Mm.
hearing the voice and it's gotten even louder. And now they're telling me to do things like go to the elders of the church and deliver this message. I'm like, excuse me?
Oh, I love that story. I am not going to spoil it because it's one of my very favorite in the whole entire book, but that story alone is worth reading the book. It is wonderful. You were
Someone
so
messaged
courageous and
me.
brave.
Someone messaged me the other day and they said, well, I've studied this and that and metaphysics, meditation, yoga, where in any of the stuff that you teach is Jesus Christ? I'm like, personally, I have a great
Everywhere.
relationship with Jesus Christ. It's in the forefront. Thank you very much. But I also have a relationship with the energy of Buddha. And I also have
Hmm.
a relationship with just the energy of the universe. So
Hmm.
I'm not into the dogma. And he was
Hmm.
saying, I studied all of that, and yet I have no inner peace. And I'm like, then you didn't study the right stuff or enough.
Hmm.
And I'm not religious. I am so, me, I'm so
Hmm.
not religious, but there are truths and spiritual lessons that can be gleaned from the Bible. And I've studied the Bible front and back for 3 years.
Hmm.
But I've also studied the Kabbalah, and I've also studied Buddhism, and I've also studied all the other religions because I was on that search of what's the right one? What's the number one? There
Right.
has to be one and none of them are 100% accurate. None of
And
them.
what's the ultimate answer and how do I find it? And I was reading over the section where through tragic circumstances, you ended up being introduced to Grant, who became just a wonderful friend. And you guys got into some energetic riffraff in your quest to seek
Play
all of these answers. Right. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about that? And do you have a word of warning to curious psychics who
like with
dabble or
astral
intuitives?
travel and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
Grant wasn't the one I was playing with the Ouija boards with. That was Mike.
Oh, that was Mike. That's right.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Grant and I got into trouble though, just partying and stuff like that. I mean, I was in my 20s, but he and I did play with astral travel stuff because he's really
Interesting.
good at being able to project himself out of his body and was really good back then. Like he just had crazy experiences where, like he said, one time he was doing it and he projected himself onto the USC campus and it seemed like so real. And then a few
Hmm.
days later, someone asked him, "Weren't you at the school the other day? I
Oh
saw
my
you."
gosh, people
Yeah,
saw him.
he was that
That's
good.
next level.
Yeah, that's
That's next level.
yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's fascinating. And I am so that person who is going to push my curiosity until it's like, it got me. Curiosity killed the cat. And I've had some interesting little tangles in the astral. So trust Bernadette when she says it's a little bit of a mess. Just don't mess around with that stuff.
Yeah, don't mess around
Just
with it
don't.
unless you know what you're doing, and have a
Mhm.
purpose and a solid positive intention behind it. You know, experimentation, I don't know that I should have been playing with. Well, I know I shouldn't have been, because at one point I was doing so much astral, I wasn't wanting to stay awake. I was so wanting to get out of my body, and that was more fun when I was with Mike. And, you know, he was into all of that stuff. He was into a lot of stuff that I didn't know about. It was very dark at the time, but um
Mm.
yeah, there was a point where spirit said, you're not going to do the astral stuff anymore. Like, this is nothing but a distraction.
Right. And it can turn into almost escapism, you know, for a lot of people. Even meditation can turn into escapism if you use it that way. So, just out of curiosity, what would be a positive or well-intentioned way to travel the astrals if you were skilled enough and
I
disciplined
mean, I
enough to
think
do it?
you
What would be a
have to,
good purpose?
yeah, a good purpose would be to explore the vastness of the universe, not to spy
Yeah.
on people, not just for parlor
Mm-mm.
tricks, like literally to go explore other galaxies, other life forms. Go connect with other beings that are far more advanced than we are. Go put yourself in a place where you can commune with your guides and your higher self and bring back wisdom that's going to affect your daily life. That's a positive way to use it. But
There
just
you
for
go.
entertainment purposes, just to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's risky. Opens you up to not fun things.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. I have to tell you, this kind of ties into the name of chapter 15, spiritual puberty. Oh man, it killed me, because if you are on an intuitive journey and you get to a certain part in the process, like your whole understanding of the world changes, and you just want to grasp anything and everything metaphysical. Like you said, you were hungry and thirsty for the knowledge, but it's awkward. You're not going to make good choices. So yeah, I just had to give you a quick
And a
shout
lot
out
of
for the
lessons,
title of
right?
that. Oh my gosh, so many,
Because you've
so
been through the
many.
spiritual puberty. But it's funny because think about puberty. When we go through puberty and on a physical level in the world, that's at the time too we get real cocky. We think we know
Oh
everything,
yeah.
and we're driven by impulse,
Mm-hmm.
right? So during
Mm-hmm.
spiritual puberty, I don't know how much I got into it in the book. We really have to be careful because the ego will kick in at that point.
Oh yeah. I don't know that you called that out specifically, but that's a really good thing to mention. You realize, oh my gosh, I am this interdimensional being that is from source, and I am everything and everyone. And you have brief flashes of that information, and it's easy to get into that ego trap. But
And then you
remember,
get stuck there.
yep.
I mean, I know a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that are practitioners that help other people that are actually stuck
Yes.
in spiritual puberty. They don't realize it because the ego came in and they're like, oh, so I'm better than all these people
Mm-hmm.
asleep. And you see
No, no,
it in that
no.
whole woke culture thing.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't know is you're still in spiritual puberty. Like you need to grow out of it. Because right now
It's
you're,
true.
if you compare it to the hormones of youth where we think we know everything and it's like, no, you don't know anything. You're wet behind the ears. Hang on,
It's
sweetheart,
true.
because there's more.
Oh my gosh, and I'll speak to that. Like a few years ago when my gifts were first opening up, it's like, this is amazing. I am so special, and I can help people heal, and I can do this and I can do that. And it's like, well, yeah, but it's not you. You're just the channel, and every other human on this earth can do these things. So are you special? I mean, everybody's special in their own way, but sit down, because while you are everything, you're also that tiny little grain of sand on the beach. So learn your place, and spirit will have an amazing way of humbling you when you get in over your head. But the thing I love about walking in the light and being in flow is that they're always going to be there to catch you when you mess up.
Yeah, there's always gentle redirects. Sometimes it takes more than a gentle one, and that's when things completely run off course and you're out of alignment and whatnot. And then,
Mm-hmm.
like, I always think of those times, and I still have them where it's like, ah, shoot, I went, I took a detour, All right, I'm done screwing around. Help me get back on track. It's
Yeah,
easy to get off track. And I think we
it
always have to
is.
remember, like, it's this planet we live in so dense and there's so many shiny objects.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much to take in and experience that we can easily just, yeah, get detoured for. And some people get detoured for like decades.
Yes. Yes. And I think that's where the importance of spiritual hygiene comes into play too. Not only ego work, but the more work you start to do and the brighter you start to shine, really, you become more of a more powerful battery, so to speak. And so you're going to have these entities, energies, thought forms, other humans trying to hook into you all the time. And it's just, you have to know how to deal with that stuff.
Yeah,
And
for
it's not
sure.
taught, but you touch on this in the book. And I think that is so incredibly valuable. And one thing I do want to shout out is that the last quarter of this book, you really get into spiritual principles and practices to grow and practice that energetic protection. And I just have to say, you didn't have to put that in here, but man, I can feel spirit all over it. And thank you so much for including this. So if anybody's curious about that piece and how to start deconstructing the ego and growing your spiritual gifts, I mean, this is not just a memoir. It is in fact a guidebook, and it will speak to you.
And
So
it
thank
isn't
you.
just my story, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's like the stories that I've included that spirit guided me to share, that 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 whole journey. It's like just replace me and what I went through with your own, like imagine it's you.
Mm-hmm.
Put yourself in my shoes. And that was the whole point of the book, is also to show people like, yeah, I've been through hell. In one
Yeah.
lifetime, I've lived many lifetimes, and been through a lot, every conceivable challenge, things that I didn't think I'd ever have to deal with, but I did get through them. But it wasn't easy,
Mm-mm.
but it wasn't impossible either. Like so much changed about me, and looking back now, I can just go, wow, I see how divine all of it was. But when you're in it, I was cursing God and the universe
Mm-hmm.
and life and
Mm-hmm.
man, especially
Oh
men.
yeah. Oh, for sure. I was reading the section. I can't remember if it was Mike, but Spirit told you, hey, it's been 5 years. It's time to pull up stakes and it's time to go. So you rolled into a completely new place, didn't know anybody.
Walked away
I
from a
mean,
thriving business.
oh my gosh. And Spirit said, guess what? It's time to start doing readings and helping people using your gifts to help others. I mean, what was your gut reaction right there in that
Hell
moment when they
no.
asked you to do that? Why? Why? Why were you afraid?
Well, the first thing was leaving everything I knew, first of all,
Mhm.
like the environment I knew, San Diego, a business that I just got up and running not that long,
Mhm.
and it was successful and it was thriving. It was my dream, right? Like, what do you mean it's time to go? I got to walk away from everything and take a loss and go somewhere sight unseen I've never been, trust in this weird voice in my head. Lovely.
Mhm.
So that was my initial reaction. And then the question that I came up with for them is, what if I don't go? What's going to happen? And the response back in a very light way was, do you want to be a waitress for the rest of your life? Because
Wow.
we have to, when we're not following our soul purpose and we are ignoring our divine calling, even though we know that that's
Mhm.
what's happening, there is consequences and you will
Oh
start.
yeah. And you included that in the book. When we're out of our soul alignment, Spirit will continually try and pull us back to it. And the more we resist, the more pain we are going to feel. I mean, you're a walking truth to that, Bernadette. And thank God you said yes. And look at how your life took off and changed as soon as you said, okay, I'll do it. I'll pick up the phone and
And
I'll
it
do this
hasn't been
thing.
without challenges. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, even recent challenges, I've got recent health challenges. It's not like follow spirit and fulfill my path. And now everything's pristine and money falls out of the sky. Like, I don't want people
Mm-hmm.
to get the wrong idea. Yes, I'm
Mm-hmm.
an advanced manifester and I help others and I teach others how to do it and take control of your life. That doesn't mean things are going to be pristine and there's no problems ever. That's not true, right?
Right.
It's just not. It's not going to happen that way. But you have the tools internally and the wisdom that no matter what's thrown your way, you can rise above it and overcome it.
Absolutely. I know after studying with you for 3 years intensely on a weekly basis, and sometimes dialing you up into the Bernadette, oh my God, I can confidently say I have those skills. And it doesn't mean life has become completely peaceful, but I am up here now and it doesn't affect me the way that it used to. And that's because of what I've learned and the principles you were taught and have put in this book.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm glad. That makes me happy. Yeah. Yeah. To clarify, Megan was in my program, Charm Life, which is it's an intensive. And I think everybody should take it. It's the
Yes.
process Spirit took me through that I teach in there. But I hear from other, well, I don't want to make that commitment. I'm like, you're really just committing to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the commitment is. Do the work on yourself that you need to do in order to be in alignment with your higher self. And then you're in the flow. You're in the flow, I think, and
Exactly.
correct me if I'm wrong. You're in the flow more times than you're out of the flow when you get the principles and you've worked through your stuff.
Absolutely. And I think you can feel so much more quickly when you shift out of it and you're not in alignment, whether it's a thought or somebody's throwing something at you or you make a decision that's not quite right for you. It's like every fiber of your being can feel it. And that's that intuitive development. And you can shift right back into alignment so much quicker. And it's not a big deal. It's an experience like anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just onward with the journey. Any other
Mhm.
questions?
Oh my gosh, like so many, but I know we don't have all night. Um, oh, I just wanted to tell you the story about when you walked into a metaphysical bookshop and this man behind the counter had had a dream about you. And he said, "Can I read for you?" And oh, I'm sorry, my dog might go off like a bomb.
Okay.
He's a Great Pyrenees. What did he tell you? Tell everybody what he told you.
I can't even remember right now.
Oh gosh. So he told you it was time to start opening back up.
Yeah. Yeah. And it
And I
wasn't
feel
something that I
like,
think I even wanted to hear at the time. Would have
mhm.
been really easy to write him off as crazy.
Oh yeah, and but again, it's going back to that idea that the universe is going to keep trying to be the little bumpers around the bowling ball to get,
That's
to
so
get
long
you where
ago.
you
I
need
mean,
to
you
be.
think that like
Yeah.
I was what, 28 at the time, 29 at the time, something like that. It was
Yeah, I
very,
think you're late 20s. Yeah.
yeah, it was so long ago. I mean, the only
Mhm.
reason I was able to write the book too is I kept all of my journals. I
Wow.
lost some of them, but for the most part, I had journaled enough through all of the stuff that had happened that I was able to gather most of my journals together to write the book, because a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff happened when I was in my 20s and 30s and I'm 57 now. So like to
Wow.
remember, you know. So yeah, when you say that,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I don't remember what he said.
You're like, I don't, your life has just been so crazy. And I just want to tell you from all of us, all of the readers who've had the privilege of reading your story, thank you for sharing with us because I can't even imagine the place of vulnerability you would have to come from to write so authentically. This truly is a gift to anybody who reads it with an open mind and who's looking for divine instruction and growth. And that reassurance that your intuitive gifts really are a blessing and they're not a curse. So thank you, Bernadette.
Mm. Thank you. Thanks for reading it. Thanks for having questions too. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm curious too, as far as the stories, the traumas, the actual human traumas I went through, and abuses that I share in the
Oh,
book too. How
yeah.
did you resonate with that? I'm curious.
Um, the difficulty you had with mother figures over and over, not only your own mother, but your stepmother. I relate to my relationship with my grandmother, and it's so hard. And a lot of people will put up resistance to this, but I really do believe that we have a part to play in the lessons that come to us in this lifetime. And if we're not working through it and we're not making the breakthroughs and finding the lessons, these problems or traumatic experiences, unfortunately, are going to keep coming to us until we're ready to really look at it and heal and let it go. Um, So I definitely related to that for
Yeah.
sure.
Cool. All right. That's helpful. I'm
Yeah.
always curious about that because I've had one man say to me, "Well, is any part of it like when's the story turn? When does it get happy?" And I'm like, "This book isn't about it's about life, you know." And I
Hmm.
did share some of the fun things that happened,
Oh
but
my
yeah, it was
gosh.
a heavy book
Yeah.
because my life was full of heavy stuff. But I mean, it's brought me to where I am now. I don't know that I could ever have helped people to the extent that I do now without judgment because I've been through so much.
Oh yeah. I know hands down, like the things that I went through over the last couple of years, there's no way I could have gotten through it without your help, encouragement, and just radical understanding and acceptance. Like, I have literally been there. You're not crazy. This is what you need to do. It's part of your initiation and your calling, and you can do this. So, and I'm just one person. So I know it's touched other lives and will continue to do so.
Cool. Well, thank you. That was
You're
fun.
welcome.
I hope that yeah, I hope that even just wrapping it up, it's not like I can't have any, can't answer questions in the future, but it's good to have I feel like we have to put a wrap on the end of it. When you read something that intense, I feel like there's been times, and I don't know if it's this way for you. I've read books like this, someone's story, and you get to the end and you're like, oh my God, I need some sort of a summary. Like, give me something to close it off. And
Hmm.
and yeah. So I'm glad we were able to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I freaking love this book. I mean, I know I know you're my friend, but it sits right on my shelf and I look at it every day and I'm so grateful for it, Bernadette,
Did you
truly.
listen to the audio one on the
I,
podcast?
not the whole thing, but I have listened to snippets and honestly, with how busy I am, I think it'd be easier to listen to the audiobook just traveling back and forth to work. You know, we're all so busy these days.
People have told
So,
me that read the paperback and then listened to the audio that they pick stuff up in the audio they didn't pick up. And I don't know if it's because I'm telling my own story, but they
that
could
wouldn't surprise
actually
me at all.
envision it better
Hmm.
because I'm telling the story. Like, I guess my inflection and maybe my energy, because when I was reading it, I was seeing all the pictures in my head,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Oh, I'll have to read some of these sections again in the audiobook for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for doing this with me. I'm excited.
Yeah,
You
you're
and I have
welcome.
talked about hosting podcast episodes together in the future.
I think we'd have a ball. I made a joke to you kind of off the cuff. I think we're hilarious.
I do
So
too.
I think
And
I
we're
think
good.
it'd
I
be a
mean,
lot of fun.
we ask good questions too and
Yeah,
explore issues from many sides.
for sure. We've got some stories.
We have some stories.
That's
Yeah.
for dang sure.
So just so people don't think like, who is this Megan? Well, Megan is going to be on upcoming episodes as a co-host for the Gold Factor podcast. She knows my work well. We've worked together for a long time, and she has a similar path as I have. I mean, I'm not going to speak for her, but she has a similar path as far as her gifts are concerned and even the calling of your heart that says I want to be of service.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like you, I think I shut it down for a number of years, but I've always been intuitive. And I think just in addition to that, part of my calling is to be a spiritual warrior and to shine light into the darkness. And, you know, for a lot of intuitive healers, it's just uncomfortable to talk about that kind of stuff. And I respect that. That's their business. But that is a piece of the reality of the world that we live in. And if I had to go through a lot of that to be able to help other people out of it, then it's my honor and privilege to do that.
Well, and it doesn't always show up as ghosts and demons like I went through. It
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
shows up as abusive relationships,
Mm-hmm.
crazy bosses, financial
Mm-hmm.
hardships, health issues,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Betrayal and friendship and
yeah.
yeah, all of that.
Yeah. So just to let you guys know too, Megan is on a future episode. I did interview her for the podcast. So you get to hear her story and her breakthroughs on top of it. It's all about her. in an upcoming episode. So thanks for joining me today, though, and doing this with me, because this has been fun. And then,
It
yeah,
has. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
thanks for listening to this episode of the Gold Factor podcast. Next week, we kick off season 2 with a special guest, Dr. Luis Garcia. And Dr. Garcia is a leading contributor in the field of biomagnetism, a natural healing modality that I'm certified in, and that's creating amazing breakthroughs in health. So tune in for that. And one more thing, as a gift for my listeners, I created a really complete assessment and scorecard called the Pathfinder Quiz to help you discover your best path for success and fulfillment. If you want to take it, just go to my website, click the link right at the top of the page. I invite you to check out Hidden Wisdom in the Classes tab to explore the many spiritual courses and personal growth courses and resources available in our Hidden Wisdom Vault. For $40 a month, you unlock an entire resource vault, and you have access to me monthly in our group coaching sessions, as well as I do a monthly forecast at the first of every month, so you know what to expect moving forward. We're adding things to the vault every day, from spiritual protection to healing to natural health, and taking control of your life on whatever level that you are committed to taking control of. So go check out Hidden Wisdom. Until next time, my friends, this has been the Gold Factor Podcast. Summon your greatness.